Hello.
I'm Nair.
And I'm Bellow.
And we are Perspective. And today we wanted to talk to you about a very popular show. It's got the top marks on MAL right now.
And it's also a Bellow recommends.
And that's Frieren.
Beyond Journey's End.
So Bellow, why did you recommend it for me?
Well, one, I just recommend things that I like, but
True,
the other reason is that I thought it was pretty unique. I really liked sort of almost like the D&D
aspects.
Yeah, sort of flavor to it. It was almost like Lord of the Rings meets anime kind of thing with how they accomplished everything. And I really liked the animation style is very soft and muted colors and beautiful art. And there's a lot of serene stuff, even while it's covering some heavy subjects. And I think when you get down to the nitty-gritty, the main theme is, like, life's simple pleasures. You know what I mean? Like, that life is fleeting. I just really, really was enamored by it and enchanted by it. So, yeah, I thought that you would appreciate those aspects of it as well from your end of things.
Okay. So, before I started it, I, as usual, on purpose, did not look anything up. So I knew nothing, except I did already plan to watch the show because of how raved about it was on Reddit, on MAL, on everywhere that I saw it online. So everybody had good things to say. Well, not everybody, but pretty much everybody, enough people, and it is top on MAL right now, above Full Metal Alchemist, which has been on top for a long time. So obviously, I was going to give it a try. But as is the case for most of us, our watch lists are incredibly long, and some of the stuff that is on our list has been there longer than others, and it may have sat on my list for a while before I actually bothered to watch it. So with Bellow's recommendation, I did give it top priority and went ahead and watched it. I liked it. I did like it. I gave it a 7.5 out of 10. I know, and I hope you guys don't get mad about that because I know it's rated over 9 on MAL right now. Everybody loves it, including Bellow here, so I kind of gave it on the low spectrum. But I did, obviously being a 7.5, I did like it. I did think it was good.
Well, I gave it a 9.5, I would think. I really, really enjoyed it. I think once an anime sort of check marks all my boxes, I feel like I'm easy to please. But I really, really appreciated how fresh this take was for me in Frieren. And I think that that's probably a big part of why it's being so successful in the anime world right now, because beautiful animation, great art.
A story that hasn't really been told, what happens after you defeat the demon.
Yeah, and that's sort of like one of those writing prompt type things, you know what I mean? Or you set down to design a new D&D campaign. What happens after you fight the big bad, you know, and you win? I think what really, really spoke to me is that it deals a lot with loss and survivor's guilt. Because when you have somebody die and taken out of your life, and they weren't supposed to. And I'm not saying that some death is okay. But, like, if your grandmother dies and she's in her 80s, it hurts and it's painful. And, of course, it's not okay. But some part of you always knows that's going to happen and that it happened in the right order. Right?
We're cognizant of our own mortality, yes.
Yeah. But when you're 5 and you lose a parent, or you're in your 30s and you lose your partner, you're a parent and you lose a kid.
Yeah.
Like, that's the type of things where it wasn't supposed to happen. Yeah. And I think it's a lot of her coming to terms with these people that were her friends and possibly could have been a romantic partner and everything, that they, to no fault of their own or anything, met their end so much quicker than she did. And that survivor's guilt suddenly seizing her is a very human thing that I think people who live on afterwards, I think it hits a lot of people when you have an unexpected death like that in your life.
And a lot of people can relate to that.
Yeah.
And even if it isn't unexpected, because she did know these people are human, they're going to die quicker. She, as most of us probably realized that, but didn't really take it in and live every moment as if it was the last, you know what I mean? And really get to know him like she should have, as she realizes later on, like, crap, I really didn't know him that well. I should have done more.
Yeah, and she left him for 50 years.
Exactly.
And she's thinking, to her, that's a few years. For him, that was over
His
half
lifetime.
his life.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And the regret of squandering that time for her own interests and then turning around and it being life-changing, literally, for her to where,
it becomes her life goal after that.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting that the humans don't understand her motives for things, like why you can spend 6 months looking for a particular flower to plant by a statue, and why that is worthy, which for us is, what, 100th of our life? 6 months?
Well, hopefully not 100th, more like, 150th or something like that.
You know, but
still a significant portion as compared to what it would be for her.
Yeah, exactly. But because it would help her better understand him and make up for the time that she didn't spend getting to know him. So I really liked that it touched on that. And the other thing that I really liked about it was that it touched on not everyone is... I don't know how to say this. Not everyone is human. And she also isn't human. And she looks at things from a different perspective. And she's on a slower timeline and everything. But she still is capable of human emotion. Even though things come slower for her, I think she still feels them as intensely as the humans in the show do, but that it's a slowly building wave instead of just this tall, sudden tsunami crashing and then it's done, like it is for humans in the show. Whereas demons in the show, it goes into great detail that, spoiler alert, no, there's no redeeming quality to a demon in the show.
Yeah.
They are most certainly sociopaths. And I liked that because in a lot of anime especially, and movies and stuff too, super villains and stuff like that, you see the humanity in them.
Generally,
you see why they became the way they are.
For a well-written one.
You empathize with them and you're like, you see how if their life had gone a little bit different here, then maybe they wouldn't have took that path and they could have been a good person, and there's some redeeming qualities to them, and you can, even if they've forsaken it, you see the humanity in them.
Yeah. Well, they're not humans, they're demons.
Exactly. But I like that it shows that and puts characters in there that are human-like, and it actually goes into the fact that they will use human emotions and the human heart against them. And that's the same for sociopaths in real life. And you don't realize what it's like to have somebody like that in your life and to control you and manipulate you using emotions that they don't have and pretend to have until you have it happen to you. And after going through something like that, it's hard for me to watch and see every single show and every single movie.
Give emotions to everybody when some people don't have it.
Yeah, and redeem all these villains. Or they have a redemption arc. And it sort of goes into, like, Avatar: The Last Airbender. Something I've always really, really appreciated was that Azula was never redeemed. She never had a redemption arc. She did travel with the gang in the books afterwards. If you read the comics, to try to find Zuko's mom. But she ends up betraying them again and showing her true colors. And there's never a point where they're like, underneath it all, she's just a hurt little girl and really a good person. No, she's not.
Yeah. And then that's reality. Some aren't.
Yeah, exactly, because when you're a survivor of abuse from somebody like that, it makes it so much harder, because that's something you question all the time. Like, well, maybe they do really feel this. Surely they just don't have these emotions. So surely it's not them. It's me not being empathetic enough. It's me not paying attention enough to their needs and giving them enough of a chance, and all the things you tell yourself that makes you stay in an abusive relationship with a narcissist or a sociopath. And having been through that, when you see a show that's like, no, it would be easy to write and you could get a lot of feels, out of it, but I'm not going to do that. And I really respect a writer. The same with Avatar: The Last Airbender. I feel like in order to have written that, you had to have been through that and know that some villains aren't redeemable. Some do not care. It is not in them. I think that's important for survivors of that type of abuse to see that portrayed in
media.
Yeah, I do. So that was something that meant a lot to me in that show.
Gotcha. So what did you think about the show before you watched it? Like, had you heard anything, or did you go in with any expectations?
Not at all. I was scrolling through, like, I want something to watch, and I saw pretty pastel colors and green fields and...
An elf.
Yep, and I was like, all right, I'm in.
Yeah. Because you guys know that one of Bellow's big aspects of anime that she likes is fantasy. So it's like, anime, fantasy.
Books, movies.
Yeah, fantasy. So
why travel in versions of the real world when you could go somewhere else?
True.
If you're gonna escape all the way. All right, let there be dragons.
I think that's a name of a book or something. I feel like Let There Be Dragons has got to be the name of something in existence right now.
I was actually just thinking about that earlier. Isn't there a book called Here There Be Dragons or something like that?
Well, that's also a saying said in many fantasies.
Yeah,
like,
because
Here There Be Dragons.
Yeah, because of old maps, old seafarer maps. Here there be serpents or whatever, you know, like actually written over in serpent illustration in the water.
So as Bellow touched on, I also appreciated the handling of loss, especially by one that you don't usually get to see that from, which is a very, very long-lived character dealing with the loss of characters who live a normal lifespan, as far as we understand it, and dealing with that, because you don't get to see that. At least I haven't seen it in fiction. And then also, again, as we mentioned, that after the journey's end, as it says, what happens after we win, basically. What happens after you save the world? What happens to you? What happens to those you care about? What happens to the world around you? And do they forget you? Do they remember? Do you have obligations? Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. It actually goes in all that. So I do appreciate it. And I actually liked both the male elf that we meet, who apparently is an even older hero who has been forgotten. I like that aspect of it. But I wish we would have gotten to see him more. And the same with the more corrupt priest, the second priest that they meet and they have in their party. I wish they would have had more of him, because once they brought him in, both of them, really, I was kind of like, oh, okay, here we go. We got the full gang going. I like these dynamics. I want to see where this is going. And then it's like, nope, we split ways. And I'm like, oh, come on, man.
I sort of liked that was unique, too, though, because how often do you have it to where somebody joins the party and leaves, and then another person joins the party and then leaves for their own adventures? I'm very excited for season 2, because I do feel like the paths are going to converge again, and then, like, what happens when the dwarf passes away, because now he's entering into his very old age.
Yeah, and Stark wants to finish his adventuring, well, at least have adventure tales to tell to his master before his master passes away.
Yeah, so I hope we get to see that, and I do hope that the elf monk comes back.
I'm hoping that him and Frieren get together and make little elf babies, because obviously the world's running out of elves, and I know that's not a natural
like, oh,
drive
wow, what a romantic thing. Well, you know, there ain't many more of y'all left, so ain't that many fish in the sea, if you get what I'm saying. Get busy.
Hey, it's not like they both aren't good specimens as well. Not that, you know, is why. I'm just saying. It's not like, oh, dang, I don't know about him. He kind of ugly, dude.
Oh, yeah. Well, I like that it's, like, ugliness is what we're concerned about. Like, not like he might be a crazy person. Or
well,
maybe
he's established as a good guy. They were stuck in a cabin with him for 6 months. Like, they've established.
With quite a bit of intelligence and stuff, too. I get what you're saying. Like, good genes.
And he has a very good judgment. Like, he saved those humans from that human wizard. He didn't save her. He knew that she would kill them, and he saved them, the bandits. So it's like he has good judgment. Obviously, he was a hero back in the day. And I just hate to see the elves just die out because they don't have the animal urges to breed or whatever. You know what I mean? It'd just be sad. But I mean, that might be where the world's going because the magic has been now adopted by humans, where it was a non-human thing before. And they're really taking over, and you're losing these other races.
And other cultures and the value that they brought to the world.
And the perspectives, just as we get to see her perspective and how different it is compared to humans, you're losing that. So, I don't know, I just kind of shipping them a little bit, hoping they get together. And of course, Fern and Stark, but Avi, like that's just from the get-go is an obvious one. And for the extra corrupt priest, I don't know, but I just liked his attitude. I liked what he brought to the table. I liked how he was with them. Like I said, the dynamics. And I hate that they lost him so early on before you really got to see much with him. And like you said, maybe in season 2 he'll come back and you'll get to see more. Or maybe
they meet
Guerrilla Warrior.
Guerrilla Warrior. Yeah, maybe they meet Guerrilla Warrior and they're like, oh, we know somebody that's looking for you. You know, your best friend, or you know what I mean. Or maybe he's evil now and they gotta fight him.
It's possible.
You know what I mean. So I like it. I like that it sort of seems more realistic, because how often do the people that may have joined your party in a journey like that end up being in your party for 10 years? You know what I mean? Like, if you look at it from a realistic perspective, then yeah, you would have some no-goes. You know what I mean? You would.
Because you have different goals,
So I like that aspect of it. And then in reality, they're not sending you postcards and stuff like, oh, just give you a little update how I'm doing, or a little flash over to their parallel thing. I like that you stay with Frieren's perspective and you know what she knows for the most part, you know? I just liked a lot of what it brought to the table. I really liked the fresh view that the author put into it, and you could tell that they were trying to pull from other cultures and inspirations, and I really liked that it sort of diverged from your typical storyline and everything as well, like you said. You said something earlier about that she remembers things that the humans don't remember over hundreds of years. And I liked that as well with the demons, where because the humans were like,
we can be friends.
They fought them, but they didn't know them the way that people 80 years ago knew them, because they fought with them. They were more a part of their daily lives. There was more roaming around the countryside, so to speak, and people had more interactions with them. Whereas the only time that they're seeing them now is sort of on the battlefield along the northern border, and everyone becomes a demon in battle. Like, kind of thing. So that's how they were able to trick that lord or king into being like, well, yeah, I killed your son, but you killed my father in front of me, and imagine how that must have made me feel. And then he was like, wow, you know, that's true.
Yeah, but he didn't even know what a father was.
Yeah, and then forgetting that
they use it against you.
Exactly, and Frieren knows better. And she lived through this already before. Like, no, there is no redemption to be had. There's no humanity in there. And basically that's locked up for knowing it.
And as you mentioned, I do like the D&D stuff about it, like Hamill liking to explore dungeons, and then her liking to collect spells, and I could see somebody who plays D&D being like that. Like, you know what my goal in life is for my elf? Well, it's to collect all these spells, all these random ones. You know what I mean? I could just see somebody making these characters and playing it out. So I like that aspect of it, too, as someone who's played D&D.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciated that touch, too, that where when she went to visit Himmel again, just because she needed that demon horn or whatever dragon horn that it was,
Well, she also visited him because she had promised to show them a better spot to see the meteor shower.
Yeah.
50 years before.
Yeah. But I liked that to her. She was like, oh yeah, I do already have one, don't I? And it's just like a heavy book weight. Like, it's just a cooking ingredient to her. But for him, he was like, I've kept it safe all these years. And to me, it was one of my most treasured possessions because I was keeping it safe.
For you.
Yeah, exactly. And so for him, it was a huge deal. Mm-hmm. And for her, it was just a rare carrot that, she needed for whatever soup she was making. Mm-hmm. So I like little touches like that. I think is really what sets apart an S-class anime, from an A-class anime. You know what I'm saying?
I think I might have liked it better if it had had more of the super corrupt priest or more of the other heroic male elf that we meet. I don't know. It was good, but it didn't, knock my socks off. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Which it seemed to do for a lot of people. And I liked it. I want to see more, but...
Yeah. Well, I think that if that's the case, maybe when it is 2 or 3 seasons, we'll see a big uptick in your rating of the show. It might just be that it was such a short show, you didn't really get a whole enough meat.
Yeah, maybe. And see, I really like romance, and there wasn't much of that. Well, there's little bits, and it's there, it's budding, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's just barely there. But anyway... There's that, but then also there's not a whole lot of... I don't want to say there isn't a whole lot of emotion because she has emotion about it. She doesn't show it on her face. You know what I mean? She's not crying in a corner. And so I think I really like shows that have a lot of emotion and have, the crying main character like Deku. And it doesn't have to be that because I really like Fruits Basket with Toru, who's always smiling. But it has so much emotion and talks about so much of it in it. And I like Your Lie in April's a big one for me. And Violet Evergarden, where you're crying every single episode. I like to be moved deeply a lot. And I think it didn't do enough of that for me to be 10 all the way. You know what I mean? I'm just saying. Not that it isn't for other people, which obviously it is for lots and lots of other people. It's very good for me. It's good. So... Yeah, might have just put myself in a big old hole there. Everyone hates me.
What a human, you guys. What a human. Just I think that's part of why I like the show, though, is because you're experiencing life from her perspective. Mm-hmm, and she's an elf. And like I said, humans, we have such short lives. And then there's all these extremely passionate and vibrant moments where we feel these great, huge waves of emotion, of anger, of passion, of sadness. And for her, it's a river, not an ocean. Is slow moving, but it's just as strong. It's not a huge crash that comes and goes, but it's something that is felt literally over the course of hundreds of years. Mm-hmm. And I think that you're experiencing the show and traveling with her. Yeah, you see more of it through her eyes. So, and then me as well. Not saying that I don't like an anime that has lots of moments that make you feel different things, but a lot of the time, unless it's a comedy, you're feeling negative emotions, and I don't want to be crying in every episode like Violet Evergarden. I don't want to be horrified every episode like Attack on Titan. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be in fear every episode when you see whatever new JoJo character villain came out because they're so gross, So I think that
you guys should have seen how unhappy she was with me when I got her to watch Violet Evergarden, and she was crying every episode for the first 5 episodes or something. She's like, is this gonna make me cry? I don't want it to make me cry.
Anyway.
Well, I mean, it happens to everybody who watches that show, I would assume.
I think part of why I like Frieren so much, too, is it reminds me a lot of Mushishi, which is one of my top, probably, top 5 anime. Mm. And it's very much a saga and a journey. It's very episodic, more so than Frieren. Mushishi is definitely a lot more, everything's encapsulated in an episode. It's a new miniature journey of his, but the sort of flavor is very, very similar to me. Like, yes, there's very moving moments, like when it finally hits her at Himmel's funeral that he's gone, that fast for her, which felt like only a couple years. Somebody's torn out of her life, and the fact that she wasted her time she could have had with him past when all that hit her. I thought that was very moving, but it's not every episode. You know what I mean? It's umami. It's an undertone and a flavor and layers and a delicacy. You know what I mean? It's not fucking chocolate pie in the face, you know. Emotions!
Eat them!
Yeah, exactly. Eat all the emotions. Feel it, everything.
Can't handle all these feelings.
But yeah, anyway, so 9.5.
And 7.5, so there you guys go. Don't get mad at me.
Yeah, and for me, I could see it becoming a 10 in a handful of episodes, a handful of seasons.
Oh yeah, it can easily go up, for sure.
Yeah, so I could see it becoming
a masterpiece.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's definitely how they layer oil paintings gradually, layer upon layer upon layer upon layer, and slowly build all these colors and facets and depths. You know what I mean? Like, we're just seeing the first layer is what I feel like. There's more yet to come.
Gotcha. All right, guys. Well, we've been talking a long time here, so we're going to let you go. This has been Bellow Recommends, Frieren. We would say it was a success.
Go watch it, check it out, and let us know if you like it.
Bye-bye now.
See you later.